Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Forged Alliance Forever promotional series with me, your host, Gyle. This is yet another replay sent in to me by TA4Life, my own personal friend, legend, replay guru, and fellow caster, and I'm especially excited because it features him, and he's going to be facing off against Voodoo, so he must be terrified. Why do I say that? Because, of course, Voodoo is one of the top players in the entire game at the moment. It was quite interesting. He had a match with the recently returned Zoc, I should say, in which Luzon heralded the match to see who the #1 spot in Germany was at the moment. It's kind of hard to discern that, I think, off the basis of just one match. But Napalm did cast that match, so if you're interested in watching it, do head on over to his channel. I think he did a pretty darn good job of it too. But nonetheless, TA4Life has some of the best mechanics in the game because of the sheer quantity of games he watched. He is, of course, our #1 community caster, so do head on over to his channel at Praise Google Our Master if you haven't seen it. But without further ado, let's see how these guys get on. We'll head on over to Open Palms. Now, I know I've casted a few of these on Open Palms already recently, and it can't be helped. When you've got your hands on a decent replay, you just can't sit on it. If for nothing else, I don't want someone else to get there first, but it's purely selfish. We can see up here in the red corner, we've got Voodoo going Aeon. He's going to be going land, 3 P-Gens, 2 mass extractors, 3 P-Gens, 3 mass extractors, 3 P-Gens, and then Air Factory. And he's going to get the first engineer off the pad to pick up, or assist, and then pick up the mass point down here. And then down here as well, we've got TA4Life. He's going almost identical build, except he's changing the order on mechs. He's going land, 3 P-Gens, mass extractor with the ACU, 3 P-Gens, and then Air Factory after it. So just the change of the 1 extractor order, but otherwise very similar indeed. But you can see he's queued up a whole load of T1 P-Gens. By contrast, Voodoo has not decided to do that. He's just going straight out for the hydrocarbon. We can see TA4Life is doing that as well, but his build obviously incorporates a more greedy power system, so he wants to get those in production as soon as humanly possible. If we take a look at the movement cues, you can see this is something I'm actually planning to do a cast on, the mechanics of TA4Life. He sends the engineer out with a move waypoint to the maximum build range and then starts building the hydrocarbon, so this engineer doesn't get any ideas of doing something stupid like moving closer than it should. So you can see very competent mechanics there, and that is why he's one of the top players in the game. His just sheer knowledge of the game is exceptional. But both of these guys getting what looks like round about 3 or 4 engineers out a piece before they move on to Spirits. And now we've got some Auroras coming out for TA, very similar indeed. Actually, not exactly similar. We've got 1 Spirit out for Voodoo, and then he's going straight for the Aurora. And he looks like he's probably going to assign that to some kind of protection detail. That's just going to move out with the Scout over here and help protect the engineers. And it's so vitally important to protect those early engineers if you can, especially at this level. These guys are so incredibly good at this game that if you lose ground in the early game, that can be it, literally. Right off the bat, if you lose map control that early on and your opponent gets an advantage, the margins of error are so tight that could be could have been your only window for success, and you just blew it. So both guys, or rather, at least, sorry, Voodoo, looking very cautious at the moment. TA4Life's got a couple of, an Aurora and a Spirit out on this side, so he's offering himself some protection for his engineers that way, and he's just got another Spirit out over this way. He wants to get as much visibility and intel as possible. Both guys working on air units, whereas TA4Life has gone scout plane first to get an early read on what's vulnerable. Voodoo has gone interceptor first, so that is going to be offer him some early defensive capabilities. You can see the Spirit out for TA4Life has zoned in on an engineer that's presumably going to work around the back. Yes, it is. It's going for this mass point. It's going to get some reclaim in, or at least it was. Interesting. So Voodoo has had to reassign some things. He's decided to take him out, pick up these mass points first, and then turn around and go for the back. That's going to give him an opportunity, hopefully, to take out that Spirit with this Aurora. But either way, the Aurora will catch up and offer it some more security. So we've got the first forward land factory, I should say, joining that hydrocarbon. That is online for Voodoo. He's working on the second. We'll see if there's any ground being given. There is a little bit. TA4Life just starting his second now, but he has got 2 engineers on it as well. So all very similar. TA4Life got his own interceptor out now, and they're just having another interceptor as well. So there's 2 inties out on the field. So at the early stage, it's looking like TA is getting a little bit more on the board in terms of air coverage. Voodoo has got a bomber. He went bomber for his second plane, so he wants to try and pick up an engineer kill. He's making a beeline over here. We'll see the Spirit. Whether or not he decides to unload a bomb on it will be his decision. But now he's currently working on an air transport, and that's probably going to be going for one of the side plateaus, as is usual. And he has got a bomb away. He's going to pick up that Spirit. TA4Life sees that, but just a little too late. Can't save it. Tries to micro, but that's just not enough time. But as this now gets completed, he's got 3 engineers waiting. He's going to go pick those up. Is he going to get 4 on there? Oh, but TA4Life has spotted it. Or at least he might not have done. His attention might have been elsewhere. If he'd have kept his interceptor on that, he could have bagged 4 engineers and a transport this stage in the game. That would have been critical. But doesn't manage to do it. It's very unfortunate. Bad luck for him. His attention must have been elsewhere. He did actually fly past it with the scout plane, which would have given him a separate opportunity. In fact, that's probably what he's seen. Immediately sending his interceptors down this way. And that could be causing problems, especially since he's not unloading all the engineers. Voodoo has dropped just 1 engineer on that side plateau to pick up those mass points, and he's now heading across trying to go for the other one. He's going to get a full pass off. If Voodoo can drop the engineers now, he might be able to hold on to them. He's deciding to drop them off on the plateau, but wasn't able to do it. He had decided actually to drop a couple off, one there, and then the other one was going to go for the far plateau. But that is quite cataclysmic for him in the early game. It's very annoying indeed, losing a transport with 3 engineers. It's going to set him back a little ways, but he will at least get the initiative on this forward plateau. However, TA4Life has got a bomber in the air, and Voodoo's going to have to work hard to keep his engineer alive now that that's been spotted. And indeed, a bombing command has been given. Interesting, not going for the engineer at the moment. I imagine it will be soon. His attention looks like it's elsewhere, though. And you can see why. He's got a nice little run by with some Auroras on the just to the right of the left-hand side. He's picked up a couple of mass points already and is sort of circling around the forward base with which Voodoo's ACU is currently dwelling in. That engineer has been popped, so no land factory going to get put down, and eventually those mass points are just going to get taken down unless Voodoo can get some air support there. Now, TA4Life decided to get a land factory online next to that future hydrocarbon first before going for those mass points. And I guess if you don't need the mass, which he currently doesn't, he's floating at around about the plus kind of 5 mark-ish. He can decide to go for those mass points later, but get that factory producing some build capacity and probably producing some spam as well to help defend it against future attacks. Looks like we've got a little bit of a future battle brewing over here on the right. Voodoo sending currently most of his stuff in that direction to counter what TA4Life has centered just to the right of the middle. He's got some units as well, Voodoo, sitting on the top. He's got a land scout, which should give him some nice radar coverage. If we take a look on that, it will give him the location of those units. Deciding to move those, I wonder if that's a bad box, an overbox that he's done. Kind of unnecessary as far as I'm concerned. He could have just left that there. Maybe he's concerned about units coming down the middle for TA4Life. But you can see how much has happened already in this early game. We're only at the 8-minute mark. You can imagine a lot. You know, some of the newbie players start with 20-minute no rush timers, and they still feel like they're not ready. But at this level, they've got literally so much stuff and so much action has happened already. And it's if you're going to play effectively, you've really got to master the tactics of the early game, because so much of the play at this game depends on it. TA4Life's ACU sitting in the middle or to the right of the middle, just working on thinning out the numbers of Auroras, which are trying to get a little run by actually. Trying to get down into the back. If you can get some units down around the back here, can make a score on these back mass points. Always a favorite maneuver on open palms. Slow it back down to normal speed because there is just so much going on. Voodoo getting some point defense up over on the left-hand side. Meanwhile, it's going to help him defend very much more effectively on this left-hand side mini base. And TA4Life is going to withdraw. Always better in this game to withdraw and save more troops rather than force a bad engagement and unnecessarily throw away units, because chances are you're going to need those units in the near future. But TA4Life has done that, and he's looking quite outnumbered over here at the left-hand side at the moment. Has managed to get a drop on the left-hand side. He's capped one of the mass points, and he's promptly working on a factory to make sure he holds on to that. Still hasn't made a play for the top right. In fact, neither of the players have, unless I can see a wrecked transport, which I can't. But this little push on the left-hand side, currently not being forced too heavily by Voodoo, but TA4Life wants to watch out, doesn't want to lose too many units. Voodoo, rather unfortunately, landing some interceptors on the ground right next to the point defense of TA4Life, and he's promptly just reclaiming that intercept with one of his engineers. You don't see that very often, and finally he's going to notice and lift those off. But it's the difference between a game like this and StarCraft. There's just so much more going on. Trying to keep your attention on every little thing that all these little units, whilst managing a much more complex economy, is very difficult indeed. TA4Life now marching in with his commander, trying to protect this factory. Has lost the hydrocarbon which it was adjoined to, and Voodoo, wisely recognizing the threat from the ACU, is going to back out. Whilst doing so, however, he's going to continue to fire at the ACU. His hit points down to just over, a little over 8,000. And finally, this forward feint from Voodoo is going to withdraw in the middle. However, at the same time, he's going to push on the left-hand side, take out a couple of mass points if he can. He's got a couple of furthers in the mix. They're, of course, the mobile T1 artillery for Aeon. That's going to help him outrange that point defense and take that down. Vitally important at this level to pack artillery in with your land units. Yes, lots of people worry about them being microable out, or sort of, at least defensively, the opponent can micro out the way of the shots, but that's not really what they're for. When you can get close to an opponent's base, you're going to need that damage to take out structures, otherwise you really are missing out a huge amount of DPS. And a grisly little line of troops now forming for Voodoo in the middle, and TA just kind of strafing backwards and forwards across the line of it. He's never going to win that battle, deciding to come right down here and guard against this second little band of Auroras, a little squad with one fervor mixed in. And it looks like that's going to go badly initially with the first branch for Voodoo, and then Voodoo's going to feint off towards the middle. He's got his ACU very far up, currently not doing anything at the moment. But, of course, while he's having this success on the left-hand side, currently this plateau is in TA4Life's hand, and at the same time he's managed to make a drop at the right. So, looking like, in the early game at least, TA is going to have control of both of those upper side plateaus. And if he can just manage to maintain control over here on the left, indeed all of his spam from these factories are making their way over there. Just at the 12-minute mark, and so much has happened. It's really quite extraordinary. Very close game indeed. Not sure if that factory decided just not to get built or it got destroyed by something. Or perhaps the engineer that was building it got bombed. It's always hard to say. We have got T2 on the field for Voodoo, so Voodoo's gone for an early tech. And but it's interesting, you can see he's got what looks like dramatically less factories than TA. TA looks like he's got a lot more. In fact, in terms of T1 factories, let's just have a look at what they're both sitting on. TA is sitting on 23 land factories, with an extra 2 doing nothing of any great importance. If we look at Voodoo on T1 land, he's sitting on a very meager 12. So TA4Life going for a sensationally heavy spam build on this, and if it carries on like this, it doesn't matter about the T2 that Voodoo's now pumping out. He's going to have to watch out, because it's always a danger as well when you expend resources on teching up and then extra resources on building those more expensive units. If you're getting massively out-spammed by your opponent, that can cause you headaches in that transitional period, because you're going to be light on the ground in terms of unit numbers. But over here on the right, for the moment at least, Voodoo's looking like he's got the upper hand in numbers, and TA is going to withdraw slightly with that group of units. TA4Life currently in the middle of an upgrade. That looks like that's working on the left arm, so that's going to be a T2 engineering upgrade, which will allow him to get some point defense up, which is always welcome. Voodoo marching forward with his ACU, and look at the amount of reclaim that's going to be available on the field. Epic amounts of T1 units have bitten the dust on this area of the map. And that's going to be very nice for Voodoo if he needs the mass. We'll take a look at how he's doing. Currently sitting reclaimably wise. That's a new type of language I've just invented there. All fun. That's just for you, that guys. I've made that up. 6,500-ish, 6,600 mass for Voodoo. TA4Life, on the other hand, a whopping 14,000 mass. He's floating quite a lot of it at the moment, so currently not necessarily making the most use of it. Tried to get a little bit of a gunship rush over here on the left-hand side, though. Voodoo probably wasn't expecting that much T1 anti-air static defense. The Seekers, TA4Life looks to have at least 2 or 3, and these Spectres that are coming in one at a time are going to have absolutely no luck there whatsoever. Just going to get popped out of the sky. But Voodoo, of course, trying to find an angle in, because this is starting to look very grisly indeed. That colossal amount of spam coming out of those factories is, once that reaches critical mass, that could be dangerous indeed. And indeed, TA4Life is having a very good deal of luck over on the right with his ACU. He's started what looks to be like some kind of point defense creep, and he's also looking at least even on numbers, maybe even superior on numbers. And of course, Voodoo can't come in and thin any of those out because of the Oblivion turrets that are going to be in place. Those Obsidian tanks and blazes could cause a problem down here, however. But for the most part, TA4Life spam is holding them at bay. So while he's still got kind of control of this left-hand corner, or the right-hand corner, left hand for Voodoo, kind of, well, it's right-hand side of the map, the mirror side anyway, is looking potentially vulnerable, at least in the future, if this point defense creep is allowed to continue. But certainly TA4Life could do with funneling more units over there, over that side of the map. He has got T2 online on this T2 factory. He's starting to produce the Ascendants, I believe. Yes, he's got them down here, the Ascendants, and that's going to offer him coverage. Obviously, he's seen those Spectres out, those gunships, and he's concerned about some kind of gunship rush on the comm. Doesn't want that happening. So very wise indeed, avoiding the snipe. But look at the amount of bleeding Auroras that TA4Life has amassed. That is insane, absolutely insane. And T2 or not, on this side of the mass, Voodoo is looking very outgunned indeed, even with his ACU over here. His ACU currently at T2. Can't see it on him. We'll just take a look at what he's got. I still find it definitely the most definitive way of checking. So yeah, so no T2, no upgrade of any kind indeed. I should just looked at the hit points. No upgrade for any kind for Voodoo on his comm, sitting at the 12,000 hit points. So slightly vulnerable, but a very large Spectre push down the middle. Voodoo wanting to cause some critical base damage at this point, at this juncture, with the Spectres. Obviously concerned. I mean, I would be if I saw that many blips on the map. T2 or no. And they're going to start wailing away on some of these factories, it looks like. Wants to thin out the production. I'm going to work on some of the power, I must admit, try and hamper his economy in some way. And indeed, as the minute I say that, Voodoo thinks exactly the same thing. And he's going to go after a hydrocarbon and then some of the T1 factories. Let's see how that affects TA4Life's economy. It's down to around sort of the 400 or 500 mark. Of course, could have all these starting points that you've got on open palms. You've got access to all these other hydrocarbons. It's got another one that was destroyed earlier but is now back online over here on the right. Hasn't built one down here, but he might want to think about that, being as the amount of units over on this side is going to give him some play. But Ascendants now rolling into the base, and those Spectres need to hightail it out of there, but they're not going to. They're just going to get blasted out of the sky. T2 gunships, of course, absolutely no match for mobile T2 flak. They're an absolute killer, and they're going to have to boogie on out of there. Indeed they do. I don't know if they're going to make it because there's more rolling in. Very dangerous indeed. It's going to be interesting to see what Voodoo's response is going to be to this. I'm going to slow it down a little bit more because, as you can see, the amount of units that TA4Life has amassed, he's now strolling right up through the middle. He hasn't got any Ascendants in this mix. Voodoo could select to keep these Spectres in the frame, which he's going to do, and that's going to help thin out those units, which is very wise indeed, because there's no real air units on the field for TA. He's neglected that side of the game completely. He's gone all out ground spam. We've actually got TAC missiles coming in from Voodoo, so Voodoo going for some kind of mass sniping. Let's see if we can see what that's going to. I currently can't on the order. Is he just going to go after this factory? No, he's going to go after the T2 factory, or he's going to go onto the engineers assisting the T2 factory. He doesn't want T2 numbers to get out in force, and I don't blame him, because the amount of crap that's on the field at the moment. And Spectre's working quite nicely for him. TA4Life probably not feeling like he wants to compete with the air, being as that Voodoo is now up to T2. He's got swift wins on the case. He just wants to go and bum rush him with as much T1 land as he can. But we've got Harbingers on the field now, because Voodoo has, of course, made the transition to T3. That was, though, also the factory, I believe, that was running the T2 land. So there's not going to be a factory pumping out T2 units as well as a factory pumping out Harbingers. So that is at least some kind of secondary kind of hope for TA, but he's making a huge push on the left-hand side. I hope you guys don't mind the speed that I'm running this, but there's just so much going on, and I really don't want to miss anything. And look at the amount of units coming in for TA. It's probably a pretty good thing that the ACU for Voodoo's not hanging around on this side of the map. Harbingers going to town as much as they can, but it looks like it's going to lose at least all of the mass points, or maybe all of the factories as well. Certainly that point defense isn't going to hang on much longer, but it's just the amount of crap. Look how well TA4Life has done on the right hand side with this little point defense creep. I'm a little bit concerned about how exposed his commander is. He wants to get more ascendants into the picture, or start building some T2 static flak, because there's a lot of gunships on the field, a lot of Spectres, and if Voodoo does get enough of them together, of course, that could be a cataclysmic way to end it, because at the moment TA4Life is looking very strong indeed. Look at the amount of map control he's got. That's got to be at least 65, 70%, maybe more. And look at the amount of units. There's just so much spam. Let's see if he's actually increased the amount of factories he's been producing. No, he's not. He's lost a few, or he's been upgrading a few. Certainly hasn't. He might have been reclaiming a few as well. But certainly this one over here has made the transition to T2. But either way, it's a very impressive amount of spam. And just on score there, just as I was talking, you could see he literally just jumped ahead of on Voodoo. I know that's not a direct indicator of anything too important, but a lot of Spectres now on the field. This is how Voodoo is choosing to combat this spam. In the most part, he's going around the different parts of the field and hitting it. And at the moment, because there's only one T2 factory out for TA, he hasn't got the kind of the mobile production to get enough ascendants out in the mix to protect his spam. But he's just sending everything at the forces of Voodoo. I would like to get this power generator out of commission. He's got actually 3 T2 powers. If he could hit these, it would really hurt Voodoo, and I'd say that would probably be game. I'd like to see some more coverage on this commander. I'm a little bit concerned about him. He's just building lots and lots of Oblivion turrets at the moment. He has got a shield out here, so he's not totally vulnerable. He can get back in there, but I'd like to see a few more ascendants just assigned to protecting the commander, if for nothing else, because he's ahead in lots of other facets of the game. Having said that, that epic push that happened on the left-hand side has finally been dealt with by Voodoo. It must have seemed like it took a lot longer than it actually would have done if I'd been running the game at anything other than -2, but I just don't want to miss anything. And these Harbingers now dealing with some of these Auroras as they come across from that little, or I say little, there's nothing little about that engagement. Take a look at the wreck field down here at this view. You see just how brutal it's been on this side of the map. Actually, to be fair, a lot of the mass wrecks have been reclaimed already. That's a facet you see of play at this level. They will not leave mass lying around unnecessarily. If it's safe to do so, they will set the engineers out there and reclaiming them. But the craters are still there. You can see what's been going on with the explosions. I've also got some TAC missiles from mobile, or at least mobile missile launcher missiles, coming out from TA. He's got some of these Evensongs, which I always thought was a very peculiar name. I guess it's because the Aeon are all very religious, but it always seems very, just a peculiar name for a mobile missile launcher. I don't know why. But I'm going to try and speed this up a little bit now, get this back up somewhere near normal speed now that the majority of the game well, the majority of the action has petered away. But that T2 air factory has been upgraded and is now producing restorers, and it's even more vital at this point that TA4Life look to his coverage of his comm. Doesn't want to lose any potential air coverage. He has got a couple of ascendants in here. He's got one or two there, another one there, so he has got some, but of course restorers incredibly beefy. And he's a long way back from the shield, which is currently offline as well, which should suggest he's doing some upgrades and is having some power issues. He really is redlining it close to the amount of available power. But needs to watch out as well, because there's a bunch of harbingers in the mix. So TA4Life really lacking on tech now. He's got good map control. He's got good amounts of spam. And he's able to keep as well this set of ground forces away from his commander, which is important because of the amount of harbingers that's kicking around in there. But thankfully he has got a shield up, which makes me a lot happier. It's going to help protect his comm a lot more effectively. And instead of going after this little point defense creep on the right hand side, Voodoo is electing to deal with the spam that TA4Life's trying to get into the back of his base, but he doesn't really need to, because look at this little run by that's happened on the right, and that's hardly surprising. There is nothing that Voodoo has got preventing units coming from around the back, so he's going to lose his engineer as well. Oh, nearly. Hard to kill with mobile missile launchers, but he's going to lose these mass points certainly. And now making another push over on the right, Voodoo is forced to withdraw his forces from the left hand side and bring them back in, and unfortunately most of the land units coming up on the left-hand side are engineers. It would be nice if that he had some more powerful units, but this is going to be very telling indeed. Either Voodoo is going for just some kind of harassment tactics, or this looks like an actual assault, and that's a lot of restorers and specters coming in, and TA could really do with getting some flak in the picture. Has he got any coming up this way? Not at the moment. Currently he's producing more. He's wisely recognized the threat. But restorers on his commander, going to speed it up. He's got harbingers coming in as well. He's miles away from the shield, can't hang about inside the shield because of the amount of harbingers just strolling through them at the moment. And he has got a bunch of interceptors that will help come in, but they won't last that long against restorers, of which there are 3 of them. You can bet Voodoo is really throwing everything he can into restorer production. TA4Life down to 8,000 hit points. This would be an absolute tragedy if TA loses it from here after such a convincing push in that spam. Huge amounts of interceptors managed to deal with one of the restorers in that pass, but not looking too healthy. And in comes the air support from Voodoo, and he's got swift winds in there, and they're going to make short work of all of those interceptors for TA. So that is the end of any air protection that TA has. He's down to 7,000 hit points. He can overcharge the harbingers, but there's nothing he can do on his commander to deal with those restorers. He needs to get more of these ascendants into play, which he's trying to do, but of course these harbingers on the ground will probably primary them if he's got any left. TA4Life down to 5,000 hit points and falling. That Harbinger needs to die. Those Oblivion turrets will take care of that, but he's got nothing left in terms of anti-air to deal with those restorers. He's down to 3,500 hit points and falling. This would be a catastrophic loss for TA after all of the work he's put in. I feel so sorry for him if Voodoo manages to pick up the win here, because I really feel like TA deserves it with that spam. Down to 2,000 hit points. What's coming in? If I slow it right down, is there anything coming in? TA, please tell me there's something coming in. He's producing ascendants. He just doesn't have enough on the field. He's down to 1,500 hit points and falling. Voodoo calls the GG. He knows he's got it. Oh, it's so painful to watch. Down to 1,000, tickling him away to death. He congratulates TA on the spam, but that's probably not going to help him feel any better. He so nearly had him. Down to 100 hit points, and boom. Oh, TA, commiserations. You deserve that win. Look at the map control he's got. Look at that map control. But he just didn't have enough anti-air coverage. And what anti-air coverage he had was got popped by the rush of gunships and harbingers. Oh, that's absolutely heartbreaking. But well played, TA. I'm hugely impressed. And of course, well played Voodoo, you know, snatched from potentially the jaws of defeat. I don't know if Voodoo would ever agree that he was in quite as much peril as he was. I personally think he was. He had strap bombers out as well, so even if he'd have managed to deal with that restorer, or that last, how many restorers did he had? He had one restorer left, but even if he'd have managed to deal with it, he would have just got strap bombed to death. So once again, showing how if you're supremely good at this game and your timings are good and you get the tech upgrade and you out-tech your opponent, there's nothing you can't accomplish. TA4Life, commiserations. Hope you enjoyed that, guys. I loved it. There's more to come soon. I might get another little boot campy thing out. That last one seems to have gone down quite well, the facts about factories. Like I say, I'm not a huge authority on anything, but I am taking some lessons on from people that are. So I would like to pass on that knowledge as and when it comes to me, if you guys are interested. But for now, guys, stay safe. More to follow very soon. This is Gyle, signing out.